Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Mountaineer Locker Room Then and Now. I'm Greg Christ, joined by my good friend Frank Fear. And Frank, we're going to try this again. We've had a year's worth of technological issues this evening, and we're trying to work our way through all of that. But we are here, and I think we are live streaming now. We hope, anyway. We've got a great guest interview tonight. I think will be a lot of fun, and got news coming out of Morgantown, which is interesting, and I think good news for all Mountaineer fans. Frank, welcome, and good to see you again.
Always great to be with you, Greg. And yes, and of course, you've got the weather in West Virginia that adds to this. But we're so pleased to be back with everybody again. We see the folks in the chat. Let me just say a word. We're trying to fix this. Since we've gone on simulcast, we're not directly involved on the StreamYard feed, which feeds the simulcast. So we don't have direct contact with those who are making comments. And we see that Jackson Johnson and Timothy Green have already done that. And we apologize for that. We hope in a couple of weeks that will be taken care of, because we're also on Facebook. In fact, last week we had over 4,000 watch the show, and we appreciate that just on Facebook. And so we'll try to get that fixed. But as you were saying, so many things are happening in this off season. And I know you want to talk about the big news today. Everybody wants to talk about the new addition to the Mountaineer football staff.
Yep, just got word not too long ago that Rich Rodriguez has hired and bringing in Pat White, former Mountaineer great quarterback. I know all Mountaineer fans know who Pat White is, and he'll be coming in as the assistant. I think assistant to the quarterbacks coach, I believe.
That's right. Mm-hmm.
And I know that's an exciting thing for him and for all Mountaineer fans. And mentioned earlier, he Coach Rodriguez is bringing him in, not just because he was a fan favorite. I know it's a good, good PR move, but he's bringing him in because he's a good coach. He's got a good history, coaching wise, and has experience. And it doesn't hurt to have, a beloved Mountaineer in the fold that garners support from the fan base. I know everybody's happy about it, and it's exciting times. And I think Coach Rodriguez is off to a pretty good start here with these coaching hires. You mentioned in the interview Coach Casteel as well, and I know people are excited. One of the reasons they were excited about bringing Coach Rodriguez back, the fans who were. I mean, I'm sure there were some that weren't too happy about it, but he is a Mountaineer. He's from West Virginia, played here, and this is where his heart is and where his passion is. And I know he's going to do everything in his power to win, and he has a proven track record of going into programs, getting them built up, and winning. And I think this is just all part of that, process, getting the former players in that, we talked about this in our interview. I'm not going to mention it now, but bringing these players back in who want to be here, I think is awesome. And I know Pat White's excited about it. I've already read his comments about it, and I know the fans are excited as well.
And Pat has college coaching experience too. And, you and I were talking earlier today. I think this is just another sort of piece of the evidence that this is an all-out effort to get West Virginia back to the days when it was competing for championships, not just conference, but national championships. And Rich Rod said as much during his introductory, when he was introduced. And I think that's important for all of us to consider. It doesn't mean it's going to be overnight. I mean, right. You and I have talked about this, and we've said it before. What happened in Indiana last year is really extraordinary, where a team with an historic losing record, they've lost more games than won games over their history, went from sort of 0 to 60 with Coach Signetti from James Madison. We don't know what's going to happen next year, and I'll be so far, and I'm a Big Ten guy too, as well as a Big 12 guy, that I think the competition in the Big sounds crazy to say this because the last two national champions out of the Big Ten, but top to bottom, I think the Big 12 is as good, if not better, than the Big Ten. And I would say I would argue better. So it's gonna be difficult. We'll talk about the schedule later. The schedule's going to be tougher in 25 than it was in 24 in terms of the number of home games, the number of road conference games. Those road conference games. The number was in WVU's favor last year, and that gets flipped as it does every other year. So we have 5 games on the road this year, but it's exciting, and we're just so excited to have Keenan Cummings with us from WVUsports.com next week, who will give us a real lowdown on what he's seeing with the incoming freshman class, as well as the large number of portal guys who have joined the team. So it's going to be an exciting spring. Going to be an exciting spring?
Sure is. There'll be a lot of stuff happening, and a lot of stuff happening quickly. And I think we talked about it earlier. People wanting to dive into the portal and that sort of thing, and talk about the players were coming in and losing and that sort of thing. But he's bringing in so many. It's just really hard to for us to track it. I mean, there's just so many players coming, and we've talked about the reasons why we think that's happening. But it is going to be exciting to just kind of watch the process unfold under him. It's going to be a little different, and like you said, it doesn't mean it's going to happen overnight. I think with the transfer portal, I think the possibility is there for it to happen overnight. I don't really expect that, but with Coach Rodriguez, who knows? He's a master at getting players and good players, and with that portal out there and all those people available, I can't help but think that he's going to bring in some quality people, and I don't think it'll be long before he does win. And a lot of people will point out his time at Michigan, but if you look back at his time at Michigan, you're close to that situation. He had didn't have a ton of success, wins and losses initially the first couple of years, but when he left and Brady Hoke came in and took his players, they won 10 games that year.
That's right.
Correctly, and those were all of his players that he had brought in, which was now that's not going to happen today because those players are going to leave with him. Basically, is what happens now. But back then we didn't have the portal, so you didn't have to worry about things like that. So Brady Hoke came in with all Rodriguez's players and was able to win 10 games. I think that was his only success was that first year, and so it shows you what kind of build up he can do. He's capable of doing, and he's done it at several different places. So, the expectations obviously are going to be high. I think people have to be reasonable, which I don't know that Mountaineer fans always are, but you got to at least give him a honeymoon period here, give him a little bit of time. But I think these hires and the way he does things will bring success pretty quickly.
Oh, I agree with you, everything you've said. And I think, one of the great things of having an experienced hand like Rich Rod is that he can hit the inside fastball, the outside curve. He's been around and knows. And so one of the issues I think is really strategic is for him to move the spring game from the last week of April to the first week. And a lot of people have asked, well, why is he doing that? Well, if you were in his shoes and an experienced hand like he is, the sooner he can get these guys, basically a new team for the most part, 60 guys that he's brought in, the sooner he can get them on the field and see it, the sooner he's going to be able to figure out who's going to be here, who do I want for fall practices, who am I looking for in terms of the starting positions, and also he can go out into the portal in the spring, Portal 2, to fill in the blanks. And so, because people were saying, well, we always had our spring game at the end of April. Why are we doing it so early? And that is early, but there's a strategic reason for doing it. And I think it just makes a lot of sense. And here's Caden, and ready for WVU in the playoffs. There we go. How about that?
I'm all for it.
Yeah.
And our guest there a few weeks ago, name slips me now, but talked about, it was Jed Drenning, I believe, talked about our avenue to the playoffs and how he felt we were in a good position for that. And I wouldn't be surprised. I'll just tell you that it wouldn't surprise me a bit. And maybe not the first year, but definitely on down the road. But it wouldn't surprise me in the first year, to be honest with you. And like you said, playing that spring game early, I think he knows what he has to do, and he's got to find the weak spots and get in the portal and get those spots filled and that sort of thing. So just giving yourself that extra time.
Yeah, and even the guys that are continuing with the team, it's like starting over again. It's the concept that I'm familiar with is called back to zero. And what that means is that, when you think of the guys that played under Coach Brown, they had experience. Brown knew them. The coaches knew them. But now with a new coach, and a good example is Nico Marchiol. I mean, you and I think the world of him, and, most people, including us, would love to see him under center next year. And he would have been, I think, without question, had Coach Brown been the coach this year, but he's not going to be. And now you got Jalen Henderson that came in and Scotty Fox. So there's going to be a competition in spring that may not be resolved in the spring or the spring game. But the bottom line is you can't just assume because Nico was the backup and started a few games and he's won every game he started, he's going to be the starting quarterback, even though, there's a lot of people say there's a thing called loyalty, but loyalty is a function of who's sitting in the executive suite, and the persons who are sitting in the executive suite have changed. So it's going to be exciting. And again, Keenan will talk about that next week, and we'll talk about the schedule after we have our guest. And we're excited, aren't we, with this? I tell you, I've interacted with Boogie Allen before, but getting to know him for the first time face to face was really great. He was a great guest. We've already experienced it because it's going to be on tape tonight. But your thoughts about Boogie? I thought he was just terrific.
No, yeah, he was excellent. And I told my wife when I got off here, I said he was a fine young man. You can just tell, very, very nice and polite and very well spoken, and was a heck of a football player in his day back in the early 2000s. And again, another Mountaineer favorite, I think, and had some big moments in his time at WVU, but very well spoken and just a Mountaineer through and through. He talked about, you never leave Morgantown. You may not live there, but like he said, he never left it. And so it was a good interview with him and informative, fun to talk to him. We'll get him back on another time as well. But that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it really was. For those of you that may not know Boogie Allen, he's from Jacksonville, Florida. You'll hear him talk about why he came to West Virginia. Greg asked him that. He played from 2006 to 2009, which means that he played under Rich Rod, so he knows him. They're still in contact. You'll hear him say that. Played under Jeff Casteel, who's back on the staff this round. And so, I do have to say something from the technology side that I wish I didn't have to say is this. We had issues. The StreamYard platform we use isn't very friendly to guests, and sometimes it's very difficult for guests to even get into the studio. And Boogie was one of many who's had problems because this platform is really for what we're doing right now, host talking back and forth. So the bottom line is that we talked with Boogie. We taped it about an hour before the show started. And so what we're going to show you actually is starting with the raw feed, and we apologize for that. Ordinarily, we'd edit it, but we didn't have a chance to do that this time. So let me do some magic here. It's about a 25-minute interview, and let's see what we can do here. We're going to push this button here, and then we're going to push another button here, and we'll see what we can get out of this. And I think this is the file where it's at, and let's see if it plays. Hopefully it'll work out. So I'll edit this stuff out, but we'll start here, Boogie. You got to go to practice, so we'll do about 20, 25 minutes. It's 20 after 5 right now, and Greg, you want me to kick it off and then?
If you want to. If
Okay.
you want to do it, get it started, that'd be great.
Okay, you're looking good. I can I can hear you also. I think we can get started. Well, I'll tell you, everyone, we're just very excited to have our guest tonight, Boogie Allen. You know, I was telling Greg the other day, in fact, we were talking about it. One of the things about the show we do, which is so great, is having a chance to relive those great players, those great games, those great programs in Mountaineer history. And when you think about Boogie, the years that you played back in 2006 to 2009, boy, did you have a lot of action back there. And great teammates and great games. I mean, that OU Bowl game. And we just learned today that quarterback Pat White is coming back to the Mountaineer staff. So first of all, let me, on behalf of Greg, welcome you to the show tonight. And your thoughts about Pat coming back. I know you said that you're still in contact with Pat. It's great that he's going to be back on the staff.
Oh yeah. I mean, I feel like Pat should have been on the staff a long time ago. I mean, with a person of his prestige or whatever, I mean, it's a no-brainer as far as his knowledge of the game and what he did, and just being able to bring in recruits, because a lot of kids that I train and coach still ask me about Pat White and Noel Devine and et cetera. So I'm glad to have him back.
Yeah, one of the things, Greg, is that I know a lot of people who are not WVU fans, and a lot of them say the same thing. Pat White was one of the most exciting players I've ever seen, and I would turn on West Virginia just to watch Pat White. I mean, an incredible athlete, right?
Yeah, he, I think I mentioned this on one other show. I've gone up to Pittsburgh to watch Mountaineers play Pitt, and just watching them warm up, him and Steve Slayton. I've never seen two people so fast in my life, and especially Pat White when he would come around the corner with the ball. It was amazing. I mean, he would take off and just you'd see it looked like everybody else was moving backwards. He was so fast, and he was just dynamic. And seeing him in person up close, it was unbelievable. And yeah, I'm excited too, because I think he, not only just his ability, but he is he's coached a lot since he graduated. He's got bound to have a ton full of valuable knowledge to pass on, and I think it's exciting for everybody. Plus, he's a Mountaineer, and that's what
right.
we want back there. That makes it even more exciting.
Yeah, and so is Boogie. In fact, when I did the research again to get your stats here, over 100 tackles in the years you played, 2006 to 2009, 44 games, and you look at the great teams and the programs under Rich Rod and then Bill Stewart, 11-2 in 2006. The team went 11-2 in 2007, 9-4 in 2008, 9-4 in 2009, won 40 games. Lost 12 over those 4 years, and we're not going to show it on this tape, but I actually pulled up a tape of you saving a game. It was at Cincinnati. I think it was at 2007, was it? Where you just about got killed though on that onside kick.
Oh yeah.
You got to remember. You remember that?
Oh yeah. I trust me. I remember that one. It happened so fast.
Yeah, in fact, yeah.
I couldn't remember if the ball had got dribbled or it got pooched. I was like, man, I got to catch this ball. Like, game on the line. I just jumped up and I hung on to it. And when I hit the ground, I do remember I got hit by a backup quarterback that I didn't know was on the kickoff team, but I did black out, but I did get back up though. So
we'll see that on the tape, because you're sort of wobbling to the sideline. But they were coming back, and if you hadn't gotten that, who knows? But the other thing, Greg, and I'll kick it to you, is that we're talking about Pat White, but also Jeff Casteel is back on the staff.
Yep, sure is. Yep.
So, go ahead.
A lot of familiar faces. I think that's good to see, and I think that's one of the things that a lot of people were tickled about Coach Rodriguez coming back, is that he always his staff before, he had former Mountaineers, he had local West Virginia ties to the people that coached, and I think that makes a difference. When people come in and they talk about the culture and Morgantown and what people are like, what the fans are like, I don't know that people outside of this area really get that, unless they're here and experience it. And I think it's invaluable to have those type of people sign on, and those guys are Castile proven coach. So
That's right.
I think it's awesome. Yeah, really excited about it.
Yeah, he was your DC for 4 years. Let me kick it off with a question, then I'll turn to Craig to take the interview from there. One of the things we always ask, Boogie, is why did you end up? Why did players end up? You were in the Jacksonville area growing up, going to high school, correct?
Yes, sir.
Why did you end up at West Virginia? And were there other schools in mind back then?
Yeah, there was definitely other schools, but the main reason I was in prep school and Coach Herb Hand, he came and recruited me from there, and we developed a great bond, and also Tony Gibson that's at Marshall right now that
Yeah.
I still talk to. Also, the chemistry I had with them it was uncomparable to Michigan State's and all the other schools that was in my top five, and it actually paid off because I still talk to them. I coach high school ball now, and I train a lot of kids. So Rich Rod, I've been talking to him since Jacksonville State. Tony Gibson, I sent him some kids at NC State. It's like it was the overall family atmosphere, just not just Herb Hand, Tony Gibson. I felt the same when Rich Rod came to Jacksonville to visit me. Also,
I can't. You tell Gibby that Greg Chris said hi next time you talk to him. Since he got the head job, he ghosted me. I can't get no response out of him anymore. I'm actually friends with Gibby, and I have to tell this funny story. Frank will appreciate this. We have a local guy here, passed away not too long ago. Played in Super Bowl IV and played with the Minnesota Vikings for about 13 years. Name was Lonnie Warwick, and Lonnie was, he's very well known in West Virginia and in Minnesota. He played for the Vikings for so long. But Gibby came down one time. I was teaching school at Mount Hope High School, and Gibby came down, and he. I said, "Why are you why are you at Mount Hope High School? There's nobody here that can play at WVU." And he said, "This is my area." And he said, "I'll be honest with you." He said, "I wanted to stop by." And he said, "I was hoping to get a chance to meet Lonnie Warwick." I said, "Oh, okay." He said, "Can you help me out?" I'm like, "Yeah." So I get somebody to watch my class. Well, it just so happened, ironically, that Lonnie owned a bar in town. So me and Gibby left the high school and went over to the bar, and later on he got to meet Lonnie, which was great. And later on, he told my brother he'd never seen where a teacher would just get up and go to the bar during the school day. I said, "Well, that sounds a little worse than what it actually was. It really wasn't like that." But anyway, yeah, Gibby's a good guy, good friend, my brothers especially, but he'll do good things down there. You. You're playing for Rich. I know, Rich has a personality, and everybody kind of knows about that personality of his. Uh, Talk a little bit about what it was like playing for Coach Rodriguez, and I'm not talking about when he patted you on the back.
oh man, oh man, sheesh. I mean, when he spoke, you knew he meant everything he said, and he was very. He's definitely a passionate coach about everything he does, and doing everything the right way, down to the smallest detail. I don't think I really. I think he got on to me probably. It was he didn't get on to me much, but he did get on to me in a meeting after a Pittsburgh game, and one other time that wasn't pleasant. But at the same time, when he spoke and he got onto you on the inside, I kind of laughed. To be honest, I kind of laughed. Just his whole
On the
demeanor.
inside, right?
Yeah, only on the inside, not on the outside. But yeah, I kind of laughed. But man, and kind of being able to help him get some recruits in at Jacksonville State, and going to visit him there, compared to back when he coached us, I mean, he's the same, but he ain't as he was more. I mean, I guess he was at a smaller school. He did tell me I can't coach like I really want to, you know what I mean? Because he was at a smaller school, and I understood that, but he didn't go off like I saw him go off in visiting at Morgantown. But I hope he bring that back to Morgantown. Now he back on the big stage, so. Yeah,
Yeah,
I enjoyed my moments with him.
I think he definitely was not at Jacksonville State, not quite as animated. Now, I did see him a few times when he got riled up a little bit. But yeah, I think I think that passion will come through at WVU because I think that's where his heart is and that's where he wants to be. So I think we'll see the old Rich. I don't think there's any question about that. He's not going to change a whole lot, I don't think. Um, you know your time playing up at WVU, and everybody wants to hear about your most memorable games and or highlights that stand out in your mind. I mean, we can all go pick out different things. Frank's already mentioned the onside kick recovery, which was a special moment for you, I'm sure. What's some other special games or memories that you have in those 4 years at WVU?
I would probably say my most memorable was, I don't know, I can't remember what year it was, but playing in the snow in Morgantown against South Florida, and the game was coming down to one play. I forget the quarterback. It might have been Grothy or BJ Daniels. I think it might have been Grothy though. I remember we called a timeout and it was fourth, and they had to score. And I remember everybody in the huddle, well, Coach Casteel, like, hey, what do y'all want to do about it? I was like, man, let's go cover zero, and we ran cover zero, and he actually came at me trying to throw it to the receiver Taylor, and the ball I played up underneath him, and the ball went sailing out of the back of the end zone, and we won. I just remember going crazy after that.
Explain now. You mentioned cover zero. Um, me and Frank, we know what that means, don't we, Frank?
Oh, I play cover zero to this day, especially at the bar.
Yeah. Explain to our listeners what a cover zero is.
Basically, you sit in the house and every man for himself,
Just
and
everybody
that's
matches up.
and we just and all of our thoughts was like, man, we just don't want him to take off, be able to run around and doing it, because I mean, Grothy could extend the play like no other.
Uh,
And we just like, man, let's just send the house A, and we'll live with the outcome. He gonna have to throw a great ball, but I feel like either we're gonna sack him or he not gonna throw a great ball. It was snowing, so.
what about the what about the bowl games? I mean, those had to be pretty special as well.
Yeah, man. Actually, my first bowl game was in my hometown, Jacksonville, against, Calvin Johnson, and that was my welcome to college football. That was a moment I'll never forget. I still tell the kids I coach now and train, I'm like, dude, I've still haven't seen a player put together like him. And I remember going to like the luncheon, both teams luncheon the day before the game, and just getting what we left out of there, and we saw him on the elevator. I'm like, man, is that Calvin Johnson? And I'm looking up, I was like, I'm almost 6'1", and he is just towering over me and just well put together. And then we get out there on the field, and it was like, man, we couldn't stop him.
Yeah.
I mean, they stopped throwing it to him in the second half. I don't know if he got hurt or what, but I'm glad they did stop throwing to him.
Yeah, yeah, he had a great career with the Detroit Lions,
Yeah.
and I spent a number of years in Michigan, and he's still revered in Michigan. But right, what a specimen he was. And I was going to mention too, that game you won against USF. It may seem odd to say it now, but back in those days, and it's not that long ago, South Florida was quite a force. And if I remember correctly, the years you played, 06, 07, 08, 09, South Florida beat you 2 times. And I think
Yeah.
1 year kept you for at least 1 year kept you from a Big East title. And so nowadays they're not the same team they were, but back then you couldn't go down there, or they weren't going to come to your place and give you an easy W, for that's for sure.
Oh, definitely not, man. And being from Jacksonville, we had, I think, 3 players that was on the team when they beat us the first time, and I think they had 2 players still on there um, when they beat us the second time, and one of them coached, well, 2 of them coached little league ball. So when I go to the parks and like kind of scout talent, it kind of comes back up, and I don't like it, but hey, it is what it is. It is what it is.
All right, Boogie, since you left WVU, I know one of the things Frank and I talk about all the time since we've been doing this show, and all the former Mountaineers we've talked to, we're always amazed at some of the accomplishments that's occurred after your playing days. You kind of lose, we're big fans, we watch you, we know your name and all that, and then, you graduate, go on, then it's a new set of players, kind of lose track of where everybody's at and what everybody's doing. Uh, Talk a little bit about what you've done since you graduated from WVU.
I really just started a lawn service and training business with my brother called Pro Impact Sports. That's what I'm wearing right now.
Awesome.
And shoot, man, biggest thing is like I would say is the number of kids that we have been able to train from ground up to being Division 1 players and being able to send kids to former coaches like Rich Rod. I think well, he left 2 of them. I think 2 of them still at Jacksonville State. Fred Davis we didn't get. He left Jacksonville State and went to Northwestern. And Coach Gibson, we sent him a couple of players and another kid that went to Jacksonville State. He transferred to Arkansas. But just being able to keep the pipeline going and the communication with former coaches that actually care and check up on you still to this day, even though they're not recruiting you or not
Yeah.
even looking for players. Like Coach Kirkland, I talked to the most, and he was a GA when I was at West Virginia. But he was also the first coach that ever offered me a coaching position when he was at University of Charleston when as the
Yeah.
head coach.
Yeah. Yep.
I regret it to this day because I that's my passion, coaching. But at the time, I was like, I don't know. And now he hit me up and he asked me about getting into it. And I'm like, hey, if it's to West Virginia with y'all, yeah, I'm definitely down. But
So,
yeah,
you,
the biggest thing is just being able to give back knowledge to the kids that I train and coach now, and then keep those open relationships with. I still talk to Coach Casteel, Gibson, and all those guys, and it's basically family for life with when you're a Mountaineer.
you you train young folks now. Is that correct? Is that what you were talking about
Yeah, yeah,
training?
yes, sir.
So do you have is it your business, or do you have, are
It's
you doing?
it's me and my brothers.
Okay.
He actually started it, and uh he's like, man, I'm getting old. He's like, man, I need somebody to take it over. So I kind of took it over and started. Look, I actually learned how to make the apparel myself. So I make and sell and give away the apparel to a lot of our kids that are in college. We send them out like packages of
Okay.
gear just to show our appreciation and stay active in their lives and keep talking to them and being positive or whatever. But yeah, it's something that we've been doing, and we also have like a travel 7-on-7 team that used to be nationally ranking, and all this NIL stuff came along, and we
Yeah.
kind of like my brother is old school and he ain't with all the NIL. He just like giving back.
Hmm.
So
So what do you what's your thoughts about the NIL? Yours personally.
uh man,
Yeah.
to be honest with you, I really have mixed. feelings about it. I really think that they should have a cap or something on it. I mean, and they should have restrictions also, because I know some kids that we trained that got in the portal that I mean, I know they was contacted before they were even in the portal. I mean,
Right.
I think they got to come up with a way of controlling it and capping it off with far as money wise. Like, all right, this is the limit, X, Y, and Z, and I don't see that happening. To be honest with you, man, I would have loved to be able to get three
Yeah.
hundred thousand, $400,000 a year for playing back in my day. And I don't know what I would have done with all the money, but probably would have used it downtown on High Street, majority of it.
I interviewed Owen Schmidt one time, and he basically said the same thing. He said, "You go ahead and hand a 20-year-old 100 grand." He said it wouldn't have worked out too good for me.
Oh yeah, yeah. I still talk to Owen. Yeah, that his crazy. Yeah, that wouldn't have been good for him at all.
So you missed the. I forget what the cutoff was. There, go back and pay back. Was it 2016? Is that as far back as they go? Frank, you probably remember that.
Yeah, I think that's it. I think they're going back to 2016.
Yeah.
At least now everything's got to be adjudicated. It's still in the
Right.
courts, but that's what I think they're looking at. Yeah.
All right.
Dang, that hurts.
Yeah, just missed it.
That hurts.
Just missed it.
I wish they extend that a little bit further.
Yeah.
Me and my older brother was talking about that because he played at the University of Florida and before me, and he's like, "Man, I wish we could go back and get some money for our play." I was like,
Yeah. Talking about something that hurt. Hate to bring this up, but we have to. Talk us through the going into that Pitt game in 2007, getting ready to go to play for the national championship, and then Pat gets hurt, and you lose the game. And I remember watching that game in a sports bar in Chicago, and I thought I had too much to drink because I looked at that score and said that can't be right. But what was it like? That must be still obviously a memory, probably a painful one too, I'm sure.
"Oh man, that was crazy because oh man, I had a whole bunch of family members like, oh yeah, I think it was in New Orleans the next it would have was the national championship in New Orleans that year.
I think so, but I'm not
Yeah,
sure.
and I think we would have played Ohio State.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, and I
Yep.
had so many week prior. I had a whole bunch of family members. Oh, we about to go ahead and book our hotels, et cetera, et cetera. I wasn't trying to hear it, but in my head, I'm like, man, they only got 2 wins. We can stop McCoy, and just fast forward to it. And as the game was going, I was like, man, Pat McAfee don't miss field goals. All right, he missed the field goal. And then Pat hurt. I'm like, oh man. And it's as the game went on, you can just I sensed it. I was like, man, it's coming. It's
Yeah.
coming. And we couldn't stop McCoy, and I was like, I ain't gonna lie. It was about a hard 2 weeks out. I just woke up every morning like hoping it was a dream. Hoping it was a dream. I was like, man, this got to be a dream. But man. And still to this day, everybody was, oh man, I remember that time that they bring up the Fiesta Bowl and they also bring up the
Yeah.
Pitt game.
Yeah.
We thought y'all, I was like, man, I don't want to hear about that ever
Yeah.
again.
The OU game, yeah. When you talk about two ends of the continuum, with Oklahoma and the Fiesta Bowl, everybody said West Virginia was going to lose, and you guys just beat them like a drum. And then Pitt, everybody said you were going to win, and you're right. Pitt was not a very good team that year. But what are you going to do? Another thing I wanted to ask is your last game was also Bobby Bowden's last game. Of course, he was at Florida State, and I just learned there's going to be a game in October in Morgantown that's going to be dedicated to the memory of Bobby Bowden because he coached at WVU, and the 75 team is going to be faded. But talk a bit about what was that was a special game because here's a guy that obviously one of the best coaches in the history of college football and an icon. And it was his last go around, last game, and he's playing against the team he used to coach. And Florida State won that game. But what was that game like?
Yeah, man, I mixed emotions about that one too. Um, it was a good game, but I'm even now to this day. I always feel like if it's somebody's last game, it's just like the other team is just that much motivated, and I feel like the refs are gonna give them some calls, not to make excuses. But it's always in the back of my mind. I'm never, and I've never been a sore loser, but I'm just like I felt that way too. As that game went on, I kind of felt it. I was like, man, they want him to win so bad. It's his last game. I'm like, now that I look back on it, I didn't want to lose, but I'm kind of glad that he got that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I got that he did that. His team and him got that last win of him coaching.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's amazing. And then you made that switch, coaching wise. You kept Jeff Casteel was still the defensive coordinator, but the head coaching shifted because Rich Rod went to Michigan, and you got Bill Stewart for a couple of years, and he's still fondly remembered, obviously, in West Virginia. Again, it's an easy question to ask. What was it like playing for Bill Stewart?
Uh, it was a little less intense, but not so much. I mean, Rich Rod, it's just every day you was just on edge with him, and Bill Stewart was more like he was kind of relaxed as I say, but he could be intense, but he was more laid back, and I'm glad that he was the next coach and waiting after. I wouldn't have wanted to have any other coach. I wouldn't want no outside of coaching. And I'm to be honest with you, me and a lot of former players like JT Thomas and Quentin Andrews, we all still talk. We all got a former group chat, and I feel like from the Bill Stewart days and Rich Rod, I feel like you always. I mean, you can go somewhere in like Florida and get a coach from outside, but Morgantown, West Virginia, you got to get somebody that knows and is passionate about Morgantown, West Virginia, a West Virginia native. And I feel like, man, we've been waiting on Rich Rod to come back forever and ever and ever. And I'm glad he's back because he's very passionate about it. And he is a West Virginia guy, and that's what you need. And we'll always probably need at in West Virginia moving forward.
Mm.
Do you make it to Morgantown to watch games very often?
You want me to be honest? I kind of didn't like the Hogerson era. I kind of didn't like the Neil Brown era. So I really, not only me, a lot of former players, they didn't. We just didn't. I don't know. We just didn't like the era and the way the program was going. So
Right.
I kind of been away here. I went to one. I'm not gonna lie. Um, I did go to one game a few years back, but I haven't been back. But I will be back this year, and I will be back for the spring game. So
Well,
even with coaching high school, I will be back this year, and as long as Rich Rod is there, I will be back supporting.
there you go, Frank. There's a guess we can line up for Kegler's there. If it's going to be at the spring game, if we get that put together, we'll get Boogie on that.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely. I definitely got to get my Kegler's wings too. It's been years.
Well,
That's
our
great.
plan is
Yeah.
to be there for the spring game and do a show from Kegler. So if
Is it a date for it yet?
It looks like it's going to be April 5th.
first weekend,
April.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
they're-
I can make that.
Yeah, Rich Rod, typically the spring game has been the last Saturday in April. And I think Rich Rod wants to move it up because that means that spring practices start earlier. And I mean, he's got a whole new team. He's got to evaluate these guys. And so I wanted to say something too, and Greg may want to pipe in here. We appreciate your candor about what you said about not feeling close to the program. We've heard that before on this show from a variety of players. And one of the things we've said on this show is that, you know, everybody stands on the shoulders of somebody else. And what you want is players who can't wait to get back. I'm not sure I want to go back. And everybody's saying that the attitude has already changed. The perception has changed, and there's more. As you just said, you're going to be back. So that's good for the program. That's good for us to be able to see you there, because your name comes up all the time. I mean, people remember you, and not only because you were a great player, but because those seasons were memorable. I mean, those were memorable years with two guys that are, I don't care if we're talking about 2350. Bill Stewart and Rich Rod's names are going to be etched in Mountaineer lore. They're not going anywhere except in the lore. No question.
Yep.
Greg, you want to wrap it up? Because I know Boogie's got to get to his practice. And
Frank, I know you and I had talked about this earlier. We're bringing back a new little feature in the show that I used to do on my show, the Courtside show back last year or so. And Boogie, we call this little segment, and Frank and I may have to get together and change the name since we got a different show now, but I always call it Shoot to Three, and that comes from my basketball. I coached basketball for 30 years, so I just threw that Shoot to Three in there because what I do is ask three random questions of you that have nothing to do with anything we've talked about or anything probably you've ever talked about, and we just like to get your answers on those. So if you're willing to play the game, I'll go ahead and hit you with the three questions.
Oh yeah, let's go.
And I used to say on my show, I had a co-host, Dave Gorby. He was about 5'11", weighed about 280, 290. And I tell people that if I didn't answer the questions within 30 seconds in the time frame, Gorby would come to your house and kneecap you.
Yeah.
But,
while you're getting ready, I was going to say, while you're getting ready there, I was a guest a couple of times on Greg's show, and he asked me three questions. But I'll tell you what, the first question he asked me, you don't answer it. He said, Frank, what's your credit card number? I wouldn't answer. So
I still haven't been able to get that out of him. All right, here we go, Boogie. Shoot to three. If your friends saw you being handcuffed and placed in a police car, what would they say that Boogie did?
Ooh, wee. No.
That's a tough one.
That is a tough one. I don't know, bro. I don't know. An appropriate answer. They probably say probably overly intoxicated after
there we go.
overly intoxicated after a game in Morgantown.
Yeah, we all can relate to that one.
That's right.
That's
We
a
all
good
relate.
one.
Understand that one. That's a good
That's
answer.
a good one. Good one.
All right, next question. If they're going to make a movie about the life of Boogie Allen, who is going to be the main character playing Boogie Allen?
Ooh. I don't know. Oh shoot. I'll probably say a couple of the kids on a couple kids that I coach, man, they got me down to the T. They know every saying. They know they can talk like me. It is unbelievable. They mock me so much now. It's crazy. Yeah, I'll probably say one of them. They probably be the best.
That's funny you say that. My son played high school basketball here in Oak Hill several years ago, and all those kids imitated their coach, and they all had it. I mean, if you didn't see him, you would have never known it wasn't actually him talking, because they could all talk just like him. All right, last one. Doing good so far. If you knew you had to die, we all got to die, but if you had to die and you got to pick the way you wanted to go out, other than old age, how are you going to pass on?
Sheesh.
And we don't want the Owen Smith answer. So
I don't even want to. What did he say?
Well, it had something to do with a woman and him, and it all ended in glory. Just put it that
Oh,
way.
oh,
It was
shit.
a glorious ending.
Oh, I bet. Hey, I bet it was with him, man. Other than old age, I don't know. I don't know. I'd probably say, I don't know if heart attack would be. I guess heart attack.
Yeah.
I don't know. None of the above, but I was.
Yeah. Go quickly. Yeah.
Hey, Frank, I would say the answer heart attack, that was kind of compared to Owen Smith, that was kind of anticlimactic.
It does make a lot of sense. Just when it's time to go, you just go.
That's right. That's
Yeah,
right. Just
good.
go.
Yeah.
Hey, Boogie, listen, we appreciate you. We know
Oh.
you got work, and we can't tell you how much we appreciate you taking some time to spend with us. It's been a joy talking to you, and we look forward to having you on again. And hopefully, we can get you at the spring game and get you on up there in April. So that'd be awesome. Thank you again.
Oh, no problem at all, man. We should do this with multiple people. I don't know if you remember Scooter Berry lives right down the street from me.
I sure do.
Najee Good lives right down the street from me.
Oh, connections.
Yes, Yesley Derville stayed down the street from me. Darren Brownlee stays like on the other side of town. All of us live like within, I probably say 10, 15-mile radius.
Oh, yeah.
Brownlee and Najee, they stay out by the beaches.
Yeah.
We should do one with multiple people one time.
Yeah.
Shoot, yeah.
Oh, that would be
Frank
great.
has your number.
I'll be in touch, Boogie. You're great.
Oh, okay.
And I'm so pleased that people are going to see you again and have a chance to really benefit by your presence. You're a fun guy. You've made so many contributions, and what you're doing now with youth is just fantastic. So,
Absolutely.
Greg, it was another great interview.
Yep. Enjoyed it, and again, thank you so much, and we appreciate you. And we will talk to you soon. Thank you again.
Thank you. I hope I see y'all at Catchers.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Be looking forward to it.
All right.
Take
Bye-bye.
care. Bye.
Well, Frank, it was just as good that time as it was the first time, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, for those who are watching, I can't tell you how much. I don't have any nails left because we did that just before we went live. But Boogie is, we keep on saying this week after week after week. Wouldn't you want Boogie to be your friend, your brother, a co-worker? I mean, these guys are they're just fantastic. And I enjoy it so much getting to meet them and talk with them.
Yeah, it's odd. You see them out on the field, and just like Bo Orlando, you see them out on the field, and they're just animals out on the field hitting people. And then you talk to them, and they're so soft-spoken and friendly. Just you gravitate towards them automatically when you hear him speak. And he's no different. Frank, one of the things I thought about while he was talking, and he talked about Coach Rodriguez and the intensity and that sort of thing. I know one of the things I think people often mentioned during the Neil Brown era was the lack of physicality of our teams. And, during the Rich Rod era, one of the things we were known for was being very physical most of the time. And now there were years when our defense wasn't, they couldn't be physical because they never could catch up to tackle anybody. But it was, there was more intensity, more physicality, if that's a word, and just a different vibe, when the team played. And I think that's one thing, again, people are looking forward to is seeing, our team come out there and be physical and be intense and that sort of thing. And if you look back at the Holgerson era, the intensity was there somewhat. But it was always after the play was over, and we'd always get a personal foul penalty. So I think having that intensity in the right place and having it, I think will be a good thing.
Yeah. Well, as we said earlier, it's all in. We're all in now. This is going to be the push. And talking about physicality, I would have incorporated it into the video had I had more time. But here's the video of that onside kick recovery at Cincinnati. It's not very long, but you can see Boogie is boogieing to the sidelines. Let's show it.
Oh, he got wiped out right there.
Yeah, they're lifting him up, and there he goes. You can see. Oh my God! Oh my God! Yeah, that's Boogie. But yeah, great era and great stories, and yeah, I'm glad you're bringing back that segment of the 3 questions because you never know what's going to happen, and that's what makes it so great.
Yeah, those are always fun.
Yeah. You know what? We're going to pivot here to talk about the schedule and about basketball, but we do. I contacted by Mark Rogers, who runs the network. He has a big show coming up on Monday. It's Ohio State versus Michigan, and it's all in on the two teams battling each other in terms of who's better and all the questions from history. So Mark asked us to show this short 30-second clip. It's on Monday night. We encourage you to tune in. We will be. And here's Mark.
Ohio State, Michigan, the greatest rivalry in sports deserves the greatest debate in sports. Monday, February 17th at 6 p.m. Eastern Time on the main channel. It's the Ohio State, Michigan All Everything debate with me, taking your calls all night if it takes all night. I'm pulling no punches, so beware. Bring your best intel. It's the Ohio State, Michigan All Everything debate. It will be epic. February 17th, 6 p.m. Eastern Time. Be there.
Now, the thing is, if that's a face-to-face, this is virtual, and I walked in as a Michigan State guy, then, see, I would be the target from both schools. But since it's Michigan against Ohio State, it's rabid, as you know. Those two teams,
Oh, yeah.
wow.
I'm glad you said that about Michigan State. That reminds me one time, another story I'll tell. My wife and I and a good friend of ours had gone to Columbus, Ohio for some kind of an event. We went out that night and we ended up at a place called the Howl at the Moon Saloon. And it was a piano bar. And of course, we're in Columbus, so it was Ohio State, fans. And they would tip the piano player so much, and he was keeping score. So he would play the Ohio State fight song. And then somebody from Michigan would come up and up them by $5, and he would play the Michigan fight song. And that went back and forth for, 15, 20 minutes or so. And I was going to say stagger, but I didn't stagger. I swaggered my way up to the piano bar, and I threw down a 20, and I said, "How about them Mountaineers?" He went, "Who?" I said, "What's the He said, I don't know if I know their fight song." So I gave him a few beats, and he took off with it. And everybody in the place just kind of fell silent. Everybody was looking like,
What's that? Yeah. Wow, that's great.
That's my Michigan Ohio State story, since I don't care for either one of them or about the rivalry.
Yeah. We got one of our viewers, Caden. Caden, if you want to put information in the chat about your channel, we can promote it for you. So we appreciate you being here, Caden the Man 614. So put it in the chat if you want, and we'll promote it. We'll be happy to do that. What I'm going to do is throw up let's get the schedule. And this is courtesy of WDTV. I like this version, Greg. You'll see it because it has last year's records next to the teams we're playing, which gives us a much better. So here it is right here. Here's the 25 schedule. And as we said, we play 5 on the road, 4 at home. And if I'm correct, double check me. In the first 6 games of the Big 12 schedule, we only played 2 at home. Is that right? We play.
Sure looks that way. Yep. We
play Utah and TCU. And the other games, we play Kansas away, BYU away. We play UCF away and Houston away. So what do you think of that schedule?
Well, one thing I see right off the bat that I like is the fact that we're opening up with Robert Morris instead of Penn State. And I know there's a slight difference in that level of competition there, but I think that I think that's important, and we talked about that last year and the year before, how tough it is to open up, on the road in a big game like that. And of course, Penn State playing for the, in the playoffs and had a really good team. It's hard to open up with teams like that, and I think that stands out to me as one of the things. Ohio University is a pretty good program, but still not the level of Penn State or Pitt. And I think that's good that we get a couple of those games under our belt before we start taking on, before we have our rival game with Pitt and then get into the Big 12 schedule. I think that's important. And looking at to the away games, all of them are tough. Anytime you play on the road, it's tough. But, with having Kansas, UCF, Houston, those teams, those are very winnable games most years. And now BYU, of course, had an outstanding season this past year. But that away schedule, even though, we got that many away games, they don't look overwhelming. They look like games that we don't have any way of knowing that right now because we don't know what kind of team we're going to have. But that doesn't look like a daunting task, to win some of those games. And so I think the schedule, it is not bad. I think it's pretty favorable, really.
Yeah, this is going to sound awfully strange, but given the shift, and again, we can't, minimize how different it's going to be this year. We're trying to put Humpty Dumpty back on the wall. I've used that phrase on the show before, and so we gotta go out there and hit people and play people and see how we play together and who will be the frontline players. And I always like what Coach Brown said, is you got the guys that are your starters and major contributors early in the season, but then you bring your other players around because the guys are going to go out with injury. Guys are going to perform really well, and you bring them in. And so by the time you hit that bye week, you're ready to do a pivot, and new players and more players get in there. But TCU's back on the schedule.
Yep.
I'm glad Texas Tech is not. TCU and Texas Tech are spending a lot of that Texas oil money in the portal. Texas Tech, according to on3.com, is number one in the country in terms of bringing in guys from the portal. TCU is close to it. Houston is still trying to get its sea legs in the Big 12, and if anything, thank God Arizona State is the last game. Now, wouldn't it be something if that game is for the Big 10 championship, or couldn't be for the Big 10 championship, but who gets into the Big 12 championship game? So that'll be a good. And again, we can't. I know what you're saying about Ohio, but as we know, they got Iowa State a couple years ago. You look at that record, 11-3, and there are a lot of winning teams there. I mean, if you look at it, only Kansas and Utah and UCF and Houston are teams that didn't have really good years last year. So it's a solid schedule. I think I'll be looking forward to see where it ranks nationally, but I think it should be up probably in the top 25 or so. But that's going to be interesting. And I know you wanted to talk about basketball. Being a former basketball coach, that was a very disappointing night last night, both for the men and women. And they were both favored going into those games. And gosh. Well,
the basketball team played pretty well. Struggled scoring still, but that last 2.5 minutes was brutal. I mean, they didn't score any points 2.5 minutes in and to the end of the game. And of course, they had a 6-point lead, prior to that, and then ended up losing. And it's just so tough to watch when they, I don't know, it just seems like the crunch time, they missed key shots. They made foolish mistakes, did a lot of things that kind of uncharacteristic of them to make those, makes those mistakes in the end like that. We had a turnover Then we had a foul on a layup that pretty much ended the game. We just did some dumb things there at the end, and which we haven't done most of the year. And I still think Javon Small. These teams have really clamped down on him, and I know you noticed last night. I don't think he probably didn't take 5 or 6 shots all night, and they're not going to win like that. He's got to force this action and start driving it to the rim. We didn't after the first half. Second half, we just didn't attack the rim at all, and he especially. I'm looking back at the beginning of the season. Part of his game that was so successful was going to the basket and attacking the rim and getting fouled, and then he was able to get some shots off after that. But now it just seems like he's settled for the assist, which is fine. He has a lot of assists, but we need him scoring, and we just don't have enough scoring punch from the other players to make up for what he's lacking as far as the scoring is concerned. And we've got to have him putting the ball in the basket. I still like the team. They compete. They play hard. They play good defense. But losing that game last night was rough. And I listened to Joden Hardy talking about the NCAA tournament and seeding, that sort of thing. He felt like West Virginia would be okay and make it if they took care of the games they should win and maybe win one that they shouldn't. And but what they did last night was lose one that they shouldn't. That team was decent. It was a pretty good shooting team, but that's a game West Virginia has to win. And I think that really put a dent in their NCAA hopes.
Yeah, I think it's because of the RPI is still fairly high in beating those 3 ranked teams. They're still 8 or 9, depending at least. But I always look at the stats, and I looked at the stats after the game, and it was hard pressed if you look at the stats. There was only one that stuck out that said, okay, BYU won. They were driving so often. They were getting to the basket. They got fouled. And so they got a lot more, 7 more points from the line than West Virginia did. And they also won the rebounding battle. And you put the two together, and that was the difference. They should have won. And I don't care what they say, they being either the announcers or BYU. To say that freshman is a point guard, I don't see it. He had a good game, he hit some big shots late, but they didn't have a traditional point guard, and it really showed because they turned the ball over a lot more than WVU. Now they got a tough one. They've got Baylor and Texas Tech on the road, and then they've got Cincy and TCU at home. So, can they win 3 of 4? I don't know. It's going to be tough. But, again, as you know, DeVries was supposed to be playing on this team, and he isn't. And that would have taken a lot of pressure off Small. And then the women, they're having trouble winning on the road. They lost to Colorado, Oklahoma State. They spanked Oklahoma State at home, but they lost on the road. And last night, it was close until it wasn't. Baylor was an underdog, hit shots, got more rebounds, and West Virginia, what was it? I think I have it here. 37% from the field. Baylor 50%. You're going to lose. And that, again, a couple games last night, that is one of them that shouldn't have gotten away. And it was just a very, very distressing night if you were a Mountaineer basketball fan.
Yep, sure was. Yeah, and the women's team, like you said, they've struggled at times scoring as well. And 37%, you're not going to beat anybody shooting that percentage. And I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's a mental thing. Even with our men's team too, it's just they just go through spells where they just can't score. And we didn't see that early on. But again, having Tucker DeVries out, that's that other scoring option. And I don't know that people realize it or not, but it would be so much harder to double team Small like they do if you got a Tucker DeVries out there, because he's going to go score. And you can't, you can't double team a guy and not expect somebody to be open. And if you run your offense right, which I'm sure they would, Tucker DeVries would be open and he'd be the one scoring. And they wouldn't be able to do that. But they've, teams have figured that out. And I think me and you talked about it back after the Houston game. I said one of the things that I noticed Houston did that we hadn't seen was whenever there was a ball screen for Small, they just dumped off and double teamed him and made somebody else take the shot, and that's what teams are doing now. And like I said, so far, nobody's really stepped up and started hitting those shots, and that's got to happen. And I don't know if it can or not. I don't know if anybody's capable. There's some kids on the team that shoot pretty well, but they're not consistent, and that allows teams to go ahead and do that without worry. And that's what's happening right now with the men's team. And the ladies' team, you just got to make baskets and not just one of them, but all of them. 37% is not going to win you a game.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. And they go as far as Quinterly takes them, and same thing with Small on the men. And a lot of really good comments from viewers about what the team needs, and they do need more depth. On the other hand, we've said this 100 times. He came in, talk about putting Humpty Dumpty back on the wall, did a great job with the portal, got a bunch of guys that played together. They've been playing together well, with a few exceptions from the get-go. But it's but once you start knocking off top 25 teams, then you say, well, the expectations go up. So we'll see. We'll see.
Yep, well, I've been impressed. I've been impressed with the job he's done, and I think the team has exceeded expectations. I don't think anybody thought they would come in with a whole new lineup and a whole new team, not just a lineup, but a whole new team, and do as well as they've done. So I don't think you can be too disappointed.
Yep, I think Kathy's right. They're good kids. Again, a good group of kids being recruited and stay out of trouble. I don't know, Mark. I think if the powers that be, and they're pretty good, they've been around, see them as an 8 or 9 seed now. The question is, do they need that many? Probably. I think you're probably right. I mean, they're kissing 20 wins. Probably need to get 21, 22 wins to get in, and we'll just keep. It would be a big disappointment if they didn't get in. Well, I see the clock there. Let's we're going to say hello here to our earnest supporter Ty Bullock from Charleston, who's with us again, and we appreciate his support. We'll run information about his wonderful store in Charleston. Timothy thinks I've been drinking tonight. Now, Timothy, I won't answer that, but I will say you're welcome to come over to the house for a drink after the show. I will say that. But let's run. We'll run.
We don't have the same deal with Ty Bullock that Mickey Plumley has, so we're not drinking anything.
Yeah, see, we're getting paid in kind. But let's put it this way: he makes a great product, and here's Ty speaking for himself.
Thanks for having me on today to chat with you a little bit about the Bullock Distillery. We're a small craft distillery located in Charleston, West Virginia, but we get all of our grains from Mason County, West Virginia, a little place called Yager Farms, and we get all of our water from Greenbrier County. We got a little family farm down there that we cart up about 1,200 gallons per month, and that's what we use to make all of our spirits with, and I think that's what sets us apart. And so while we do go out and we source some of the best barrels that we can from other distilleries and other states, we make all of our own whiskeys in house as well that we're aging, and we're really proud of how we've grown our company. And you can find us in most liquor stores around the state, and if we're not there, give us a request. Talk to the manager, see if they'll be interested in carrying our products and try a real unique taste of West Virginia. I encourage everybody to come pay us a visit in the Elk City Historic District of Charleston, West Virginia. And come take a tour and do a sample with us and hear more about our story.
Good stuff there from Ty. Not only does he make a great product, but he's a community developer and has done great things down in the Charleston area and some other places. And we're tickled to death to have him on.
Yeah, I agree. He is just fantastic. Kathy Fair has been drinking too tonight. And so he says he's always like this. And see, this is what happens when you have your wife go back and forth with Timothy. It's interesting. At any rate, I will say, I mean, the thing about Ty is he's the real deal. And you need to have people like that in this world. He's there to make the world a better place. And, he built that from scratch with his family and with others. And it's a great deal. And, if you want to buy a great product, a West Virginia product, he's the guy to go to. And talking about great guys, we're going to be very pleased to have with us next week to really do the lowdown on the real skinny about Mountaineer portal, Mountaineer recruiting from high schools, and what everything looks like. He's one of the best. Keenan Cummings, and we thank Mark Parsons for not only getting Keenan making the connection, but also getting Boggie the connection for us. But Keenan is the managing editor of WVUsports.com. He's at Rivals, and he's also a Heisman voter and more. He'll be with us, our guest, next Wednesday night, February 19th at 7 p.m. We look forward to that, Greg.
Yep, I think we look forward to it. A lot of the listeners and viewers look forward to it as well because they want to know what's going on in that portal, and so much going on in there now. It's happening so fast. It's hard to keep up with. So I'm trying to read. I ask forgiveness. My eyesight has. I don't know why. Since I was in the hospital, I have trouble reading the comments here. But Mark always makes good points. And
it's about the basketball team. Yep.
And Mark has helped us out tremendously. We want to thank him again for helping us with guests. Him and Mike. And speaking of Mike, I talked to him last week. He's doing better on the mend. Looking forward to getting back on the show some with us. So we look forward to Mike Dunlap coming back with us as well. And Frank, we somehow the two cohorts in crime are Mike Dunlap, Mark Parsons. Big help on the show, acquiring guests for us and keeping us up to date with all the things going on in Mountaineer world. Frank, we managed to cobble this thing together and pull it off somehow. We appreciate everyone's patience as we work our way through these different formats here, and it's not always easy, but we managed to do it somehow. Great guest. We appreciate Boogie Allen again. Does a wonderful job talking to him and listening to him. He's a well-spoken young man, and it's a pleasure to interview him. Enjoyed that. So, Frank, without anything else, if you've got anything else, fine. If not, we will bid adieu to our viewers tonight. We appreciate everybody for tuning in, and we look forward to coming to you next Wednesday night on the Mountaineer Locker Room Then and Now. For Frank Fear, I'm Greg Christ. Good night, everybody.